how can we know that the Islamic religion is the correct religion? All the religion in the world claim that they are the correct one. So how can I know which religion is the most correct among them? To choose the correct religion, this religion must provide logical answers to the following questions. Is this religion logical and consistent with the human mind? Is this religion suitable for all times and generations? Is there signs in this religion that it was imposed by the creator of this universe and not invented by someone? Does this religion solve the problem I face in my life, or does it only mention the problems? Is the constitution of this religion fixed and doesn't change according to the interest of whose work on the religion? Is this constitution preserved and protected from tampering, or have its words, meanings and terms been altered? Are the instructions of this religion contradictory to each other, or do they all go in one direction? If I follow this religion, will I be happy and comfortable in my life or not? If this religion passes all these challenges and tests, then it is certainly the right religion for you to choose. So I won't prolong the introduction. Let's get to the point. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To know if Islam is the correct religion, we must put it to all tests mentioned in the introduction. Let's begin. Is Islam logical and consistent with the human mind? Islam asks you to worship the one and only God who created everything in this life. It doesn't ask you to worship humans who are just like you. They live and die, eat and drink, marry and reproduce. So what is the special thing in this human you don't have for you to worship him? Some people even go to graves and ask for mercy and forgiveness from those buried, which is forbidden in Islam. What can the dead do for you in their grave when they couldn't protect themselves from death? Even if you worship prophets in Islam, this means that you are not a Muslim. Can you imagine, dear viewer, that even prophets who are among the best of God's creation, you cannot worship in Islam because it is prohibited. Likewise, you are forbidden from worshipping animals, planets, lands, the sun, or even the earth. So we are done with the issue of worship. Let's talk about something else. Islam forbids theft, murder, adultery, rape, robbery, and insulting people with the worst words. Islam also commands helping the poor and needy and mandates lawful marriage because it gives rights to women. It's even considered a marriage as a form of worship and closeness to God, and you earn good deeds for it as well. I don't want to prolong this section so the video doesn't become too long. So until now, we discovered that Islam is logical and consistent with the human mind and human nature. Thus, it has passed the first test. Now we come to the second test. Is Islam suitable for all times and generations? Islam and the Quran forbid adultery because it results in children who don't know their fathers and causes the disintegration of society. But you might say, in this era, there are modern technologies and DNA tests that can determine the real father of the child. So why Islam forbid adultery? Because these technologies appeared only in the modern era about 50 to 60 years ago, and before that they didn't exist. So at that time it was not possible to know the real father. This indicates that the only way to avoid illegitimate children is to avoid adultery, which Islam forbids. But then you might say, since we live in an age of technology and medical tests and can solve this problem, Islam is no longer veiled for this time. But I will respond by saying you are mistaken, dear viewer, because the spread of adultery in societies leads to the disintegration of these societies. Women no longer have rights, as we see in the Western countries, where it's much easier to get a girlfriend than a wife due to the high costs of marriage and divorce, and because adultery is normal and not forbidden. As a result, we see that their families are disintegrated and there is no family bonding, as we see in Muslim societies. Additionally, the spread of adultery leads to the spread of many sexually transmitted diseases that science has not found a cure for yet. So Islam forbade adultery to prevent the disintegration of families and the spread of diseases. This is one example of many that we don't have time to mention here. Thus, Islam has passed the second test as well. Let's move into the third test. Are there signs in Islam that it was imposed by the creator of this universe and not invented by someone? To confirm this, we must return to the Quran and the Noble Sunnah. There are scientific facts mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah 1400 years ago, which were not discovered or confirmed until our modern era. About 100 years ago up to this time. No one could have known these facts at that time, 1400 years ago, due to the limited resources and information they had back then. These resources and information were not only unavailable to Muslims, but to all people. No one could have known them except the creator of these facts. Among these facts is the Big Bang theory, which states that the entire universe at its beginning was a dense hot gas mass. Then, under the immense pressure, this mass exploded and its parts scattered, forming planets, stars, and galaxies. This theory was first proposed in 1927 and confirmed in 1989. But the Quran told us this truth 1400 years ago, when God said in Surah Al-Anbiya chapter 21 verse 30, "Do not the disbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together, and we split them apart, and we made from water every living thing. Then will they not believe?" God also said in Surah Fussilat chapter 41 verse 11, "Then he turned to the heaven when it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, 'Come willingly or unwillingly.' They both said, 'We come willingly.'" In this verse, God explains the exact nature of the universe, which was originally smoke. Another fact is the stage of embryonic development in a mother womb, from the beginning until before birth. The science of embryology was first established in 1775 with basic and limited information, and it has developed over time until we now know all stages of embryo development thanks to modern electric devices and MRI scanners. But these stages were described in a precise detail in the Quran, which was revealed 1400 years ago. God say in Surah Al-Mu'minun chapter 23 verse 12 to 14, "And indeed we created man from an extract of clay. Then we made him a drop of fluid in a secure place. Then we made the drop into a clinging cloth, and we made the cloth into a lamp, and we made the lamp into bones, and we clothed the bones with flesh. Then we devolved him into another creation. So blessed is Allah, the best of creators." This amazing matter received notable recognition from one of the leading embryologists in the world, the Canadian Keith Moore, in the introduction to his textbooks on embryology, which is used in many medical colleges worldwide. Moore says that the Quran is the only book that mentioned with remarkable accuracy the stage of embryonic development before our modern era. All of this indicates that the Quran was not authored by a human being at that time, as no one could explain these facts I mentioned earlier, or many others found in the Quran and Sunnah, especially considering the low-level knowledge back then, and the absence of the advanced devices like those in our modern age. We conclude that the one who revealed this religion and this Quran is the creator of this universe and not any ordinary creature. Thus, Islam passes the third test as well. The test number 4. Does Islam solve the problems we face in our lives, or does it only mention them? There are many serious and fundamental problems that Islam solves through a series of steps that must be followed. An example of these problems: 1. The spread of poverty leading to theft, robbery, and even murder. 2. The spread of rape and harassment. Let's look at the first problem, which is the spread of poverty. Islam solves this problem by imposing several steps that must be followed. The first step is zakat, mandatory charity. Islam requires wealthy individuals to give a portion of their wealth to the poor. For instance, Someone who owns more than 80 grams of gold for trade purposes must donate 2.5% of their gold to the poor and needy. There are specific amounts for money, jewelry, and crops, and the owner must donate a portion of this to the poor, greatly reducing poverty over time. Step number 2, the punishment of cutting off the hand for theft. Some might say this is a harsh punishment, and eventually we would have to cut off everyone's hand. But I say that Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world that applies this system. And yet, when you walk in Saudi Arabia, you don't see everyone's with their hand cut off. You might see a few, but it's extremely rare. So what is the result of these rules being applied? The result, dear viewer, is that Saudi Arabia is one of the safest countries regarding theft, and it has the lowest number of poor people in the world. Now, let's address the problem of the spread of rape and harassment. How did Islam solve this problem? 1. Lowering the gaze. Islam commands men to lower their gaze and do not look to a woman, except for their wives and women they are not allowed to marry, such are their mothers, sisters, aunts, etc., to avoid arousing desire. 2. Modest dress for women. Islam instructs women to wear modest clothes that doesn't reveal their body, allowing only the face and hands to be uncovered so they don't arouse men's desires. 3. The punishment of rape is death. Some might say that the death penalty is too harsh and brutal, but I ask you to imagine that your mother, sister, or wife was raped and you are standing in front of the rapist. What would you do? I'm sure you would want to kill him or sentence him to death, and so would anyone else. So why allow yourself to kill the rapist and deny it to others? This is why Saudi Arabia, which applies Sharia law, including modest dress for women and the death penalty for rapists, has the lowest rate of rape in the world. Meanwhile, in the United States, considered the most powerful country in the world, a rape occurs every 107 seconds. That means by the time you finish watching this video, 10 to 15 rapes may occur. Moreover, 68% of the sexual assaults in the United States are not reported to the police, and 98% of rapists never spend a single day in prison. All this number according to Trender. From this, we conclude that Islam has provided solutions to these two problems and many others. Thus, Islam has passed the 4th test. Test number 5 is the Islam constitution is fixed and unchanging with the interest of those working on religion. The answer is yes, dear viewer. For 1,400 years, no ruler, Khalifa, leader of the believers, or religious scholar has ever said that a particular verse doesn't serve their interests, or that a specific hadith disagree with their opinion, and so they removed or replaced it. The Quran and the Sunnah, or Prophet's teaching, are the constitution of Islam and have been preserved for 1,400 years with nothing in them changed. This leads us directly to the next test. Has this constitution been preserved from tampering, or has it been altered? The answer is yes, as mentioned earlier. Additionally, the Quran was revealed to the people of Mecca, specifically the Quraysh tribe, known for their eloquence in the Arabic language at the time. However, the Quran challenged them in several verses to produce something like it, or even just one chapter, but they were unable to do so. The eloquence and literary beauty of the Quran led many non-Muslims at that time to express admiration of the language of the Quran, admitting that such words could not come from a human being. Thus, all attempts to distort or tamper with the Quran have failed, and it has remained unchanged for 1,400 years. So Islam has passed both the 5th and the 6th tests. Now we come to the 7th test. Are the instructions of this religion contradictory, or are they all consistent? The entire Quran and the Sunnah are allied with each other. There is not a single rule or law that contradicts another. You can search for contradictions if you like, but I assure you, There is not a single verse that contradicts another, nor a single hadith that contradicts another. Everything complements each other, with the Quran being complete in itself, though it can be better understood through interpretation and Sunnah. The 7th test has been passed successfully. The 8th and final test: will following Islam make me happy and content in my life or not? I don't know, you tell me. If you find a religion that has all of these qualities: 1. A logical religion that aligns with your mind and thinking. 2. A suitable religion for all times and generations, not limited to one era or group. 3. A religion that imposed by the creator of the universe. 4. A religion that solves all your problems, small problems or big ones. 5. A religion that is fixed and doesn't change with time or interests. 6. A religion that is preserved and has not been tampered with. 7. A religion that is not contradictory, with all its teaching working together to guide humanity from darkness to light. If you find a religion that passes all these tests and answers all your questions, would it not make you happy because it guides your life in the best and most correct way? Or would it cause you sadness and pain? Answer me in the comments. Is Islam the true religion that will bring you happiness or not? And don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video, and may you remain in the care of Allah.